He's been cleared for contact. I don't know if he's going to be able to go tonight. I think he has one more appointment with the doctor. Tuesday, I think it is, what I was just told. So he probably won't go tonight.
Do you have everyone else?
Everybody else is available.
This is like when people, the fourth year in a row, he's had a hamstring at some point. Is something, maybe put a finger on what's going on with Lucas?
I don't know. You have to talk with the medical people about that. I mean, he's 2 years in a row he's been here that he's had a injury. It's unfortunate for him because he misses out on a lot of quality repetitions and defensive things that we're putting in offense. So it's very difficult. He's playing catch up the rest of the time. So it's tough on. I feel for him because I thought he had a great summer. He worked hard the entire summer, had a good summer league, stayed injury-free the entire summer. So it's difficult for him, and you feel for a guy that has put in as much time as he put in this summer.
How do you feel about preseason so far? I mean, in terms of the health of your team and the kind of continuity you've had. You've had new faces, but do you feel it's been productive because you have been roughly injury-free, et cetera?
Well, it's been productive. You're still trying to get that chemistry. That's the fine line between getting young guys looks and playing with your regular guys together. And we had that luxury last year, but again, incorporating Damari into a lot of what we're doing, Corey, those guys, trying to get them all the chemistry of them playing together has been the challenge for us. But that's what the preseason's for. In practice we get a lot of reps of those guys getting together, and still we still want to see what the young guys can do in the games. So we may go one more game that way. We'll just see how tonight goes and play that by ear.
You've had access to everybody, right?
Yes, no question, and that's been, knock on wood, a plus. Everybody except Lucas, and for the entire, we've had some nicks and bumps, but for the most part, we've had our entire crew, Mike.
And whatever changes you have made, say defensively in particular, has it been easier because there's been enough returning guys that have a cohesion, even if it is new stuff?
Well, it's good. The terminology is the same. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's what we've tweaked and changed. Other guys have done it before in their career. The terminology is a little bit different. But for the most part, everybody that's playing has experienced and ran the type of defensive changes we've made. Offensively, we've changed some things offensively, so everybody's kind of getting a feel for that. But for the most part, that's just getting used to knowing where Damari's going to be. How is he going to get his shot within the offense? How is DeMar DeRozan going to get his looks within the new sets are the biggest challenges.
A lot of players talk about how important their work is on the defensive end, but when you listen to Biyombo talk about it and then you see his game, obviously he means it. What is it like to coach a guy who gets that end of the floor the way that he does?
It's exciting, to have. But again, I think a lot of our guys that we brought in have a defensive mindset. Corey, Damari, Biyombo, those guys have a defensive mindset. And deep down, Kyle has a defensive mindset. Deep within there somewhere, he's got one. For the most part, it's just, those guys bringing that edge into practice, and it's contagious, I think. The talking has become contagious by Biyombo.
A lot of these guys, Bismack included, have mentioned Kyle as almost a pleasant surprise defensively early in camp. Has having these guys around sort of brought out the best in him defensively?
Well, no, I think Kyle, coming in great shape, not good shape, great condition. He's right now one of our best guys getting into the basketball, and that's something that was our challenge last year is getting into the pick and roll. That's where the pick and roll defense starts at the initial, because if you don't get into the ball before that screen hits you, you'll never catch up. So he's done a great job with that. He's kind of setting the tone of that. But a lot of that is how he gets an advantage, Josh, is Biyombo's talking to him. JV's talking to him earlier. So the communication is there earlier for whatever reason than it was last year. And guards right now don't have an excuse if they don't get in the ball. So that everybody has a job to do on every possession, and that's what we're holding everybody accountable on each possession defensively.
Obviously, it's a really small sample size through the preseason, but what have you thought about Corey and Kyle on the floor together?
It's a very small sample size. I like what I saw, but it's too early to tell, Holly. And the fact that they still going to have some time together. I think Corey and either one of them could play with anybody because they are tough, they're gritty, they can guard bigger players. The problem last year, going small, wasn't Kyle. It was the other small guys with him. And now we have speed and quickness with Kyle. We have toughness with Kyle defensively, so you don't get burned as much defensively when you do go small.
A couple of guys I mentioned that they find Corey's game a lot more advanced than they thought because he's in this system as opposed to more structure in San Antonio.
Well, I would say I take offense saying our system's not structured.
No, you know what I mean.
I know what you're saying. But, again, he doesn't have Tim Duncan, Hall of Famer, Ginobili, Hall of Famer, to concede to. He's kind of the focal point for us a little bit, especially with the second unit. Where there, he's got Boris Diaw, who is an international star. Ginobili plays with that second unit. So he's got other people in the pecking order that are ahead of him, whereas here he's kind of moved up in the pecking order, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you see that sort of freeing him to be more
it does,
creative
yeah.
offensively?
Well, he can, yes, he can. And he had freedom in San Antonio, but he had other people who they went to first, whereas here he's kind of going to be the primary option, especially with the second unit when he has the ball in his hand.
You've been with really, really good teams, either Seattle or obviously Dallas. Did you find a strong correlation between the quality of your training camp preparation and your in-season performance, or those seem so good that it kind of didn't always matter?
I've had it every way you've ever seen him. I've had the terrible, like the year we won the championship in Dallas, our training camp was average because we had older guys. We was trying to bring them along slowly, making sure they could walk by the end of the month. And we had one practice a day. Doug would love that. We didn't have 2-a-days, and that was before they changed the 2-a-day rule. We just had one practice a day over at SMU in Dallas because we were trying to go slow, and we thought coming out of that, there's no way we're going to win the conference. But we win the championship. So you've seen it all kind of different ways as far you have great training camp, and then you suck once the regular season starts. So. I think you just have to make sure you guys get reps, you get in what you get in, establish your parameters, what you want to do offensively and defensively, and you just have to be a stickler with it in training camp and how hard they do it, how successful you are in training camp. Wins and losses really don't matter.
Kind of along those lines, not that David needs you to feel for him, but dealing with a roster that is so injury-plagued right now, and as he tries to, set out to win every game, how hard is that as a coach to balance?
Injuries are difficult. I think there's a difference between injury, an injured training camp versus the guys you're just trying to rest. Injuries, not only do they have to come back and get healthy, they got to get back in game condition. They got to get over that injury. They got to get the confidence they can play through that injury. So that's the most difficult things you can do when you have a bunch of players that are injured versus that you're just bringing along slowly, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That injury bug is something that you don't want to have in training camp, especially with some of your key guys, because it's just difficult. Now they've got to go through the first month or so to get in game shape and game condition to get confidence through those injuries. But that's part of the NBA. That's probably the nature of our beast.
What does impress you most about Anthony? You've talked about his defense, but does he seem like he's settling in and relaxing?
He's relaxing. He's settling in, and I think by coming out and establishing himself defensively has helped that. There's no pressure on him to make shots. There's no pressure on him to average a bunch of points. Just do your job on the defensive end, and I think that's freed him up offensively. It freed his mind up. If you have open shot, take it. But that's not what we need out of you. We need you to get where you need to be, impact the ball defensively in the pick and rolls, rebound your position, and defend your position.
Coach, is there anyone that you haven't seen in a lineup yet that you need to see at this point?
I've seen everybody every day in practice. I know what the guys we have that are playing. I don't think there's anybody that I haven't seen. We saw Axel the other night. I think we needed really to see him, Toupane, the young man from France, to see him in a game situation. We saw that. I know what Lucas can do. I would love to have had him in camp, but we've seen, you know, the young guys quite a bit and kind of know what they can do. You know, closer it gets to next week, the more we want to get to closer to you know, our regular minutes.